Picture yourself standing at the base of a mountain. The path winds upward, disappearing into mist. You can see other travelers at various points along the trail, some just beginning, others already halfway up, a few barely visible near the summit. Here's what you notice. The higher they climb, the fewer companions walk beside them. This isn't a story about loneliness. It's a teaching about the nature of any genuine path, whether you're deepening a meditation practice, mastering a craft, or simply learning to be present with your own mind. The Buddha himself discovered this. After leaving the palace, after studying with the greatest teachers of his time, he sat alone beneath the Bodhi tree. No one could take that final step for him. In the Dhammapada, he teaches, you yourself must make the effort. The Buddhas are only teachers. Why would anyone choose this path? Why walk towards something that appears so solitary? If it feels right, share in the comments where you're listening from right now. Let's create a moment of connection across the world. Maybe you're settling in for the evening, or beginning your morning, or finding a quiet pocket in a busy day. Wherever you are, you're welcome here. Because here's what nobody tells you about that loneliness on the mountain path. It looks like loneliness from the outside. That's what people see when they watch someone walk higher up the mountain path. They see fewer companions. They see someone choosing to practice alone, eat alone, wake alone. They see what appears to be isolation. But here's the paradox that reveals itself only to those who actually make the climb. The loneliest you'll ever feel is in a crowded room, pretending to be someone you're not. Think about it. You've experienced this, surrounded by people, at a party, in a meeting, scrolling through hundreds of social connections, and yet feeling profoundly, achingly separate. Everyone's talking, but no one's really present. Everyone's connected, but something essential is missing. That's loneliness. Now picture this, sitting by yourself in the early morning, just you and your breath. No noise, no performance, no pretending, just the simple fact of being alive, being aware, being here. That's aloneness. The difference isn't about how many people are in the room. It's about whether you're home inside yourself. A monk wakes up alone, not because connection is forbidden, but because the morning practice doesn't require an audience. He walks to the meditation hall alone, not out of sadness, but because the path beneath his feet is his own to walk. He eats his meal in silence, not because he dislikes people, but because he's learning to be truly present with what is. This is what life looks like at higher altitudes. At the base of the mountain, everyone moves together. There's comfort in the crowd, safety in numbers, validation in shared direction. No one questions whether this is the right path, because look, everyone else is here too. But as you climb, something shifts. The path narrows. Not everyone wants to continue. Some turn back, saying it's already good enough here. Others stop to rest and never resume the climb. A few keep going, but at their own pace, on their own timeline. You start to notice the people beside you are fewer. The conversations become less frequent. There's less chatter about the weather, about other people, about things that don't really matter. And here's what's strange. You don't miss it as much as you thought you would. Because something else is happening. In the space where small talk used to be, you're starting to hear something you couldn't hear before. The sound of your own breath, the rhythm of your own steps, the voice of your own inner knowing that's been trying to speak to you for years. The Buddha understood this completely. In the Dhammapada, he offers this teaching. If you do not find a prudent companion who will associate with you, who behaves well and is wise, walk alone, like a king who has renounced his kingdom, or like an elephant roaming at will in the forest. Walk alone like an elephant. Not because other beings don't matter. They matter immensely. But because some journeys require you to know your own strength, your own direction, your own capacity to stand steady when the ground beneath you shifts. An elephant doesn't roam alone out of fear or weakness. It roams alone because it knows itself. It doesn't need the herd's approval to know which direction to move. It doesn't need constant company to feel secure in its own presence. This is the beautiful paradox. The more comfortable you become with aloneness, the more genuinely you can connect with others. When you're no longer desperate for connection to fill some inner void, you can meet people without needing them to be anything other than what they are. When you're at peace in your own company, you stop performing, stop pretending, stop exhausting yourself, trying to be impressive. You just are. And, ironically, that's when real connection becomes possible. But the people at the base of the mountain can't see this yet. From their vantage point, walking alone looks like a loss. They see someone leaving the comfort of the group and think, how sad, how isolated. What's wrong with them that they can't just be happy here with the rest of us? They don't understand that you're not leaving because you hate them. You're climbing because something inside you needs to see what's higher. You're walking alone because that's the only way to discover what you're actually capable of. Here's what they can't see from down there. The view. When you're at the base, surrounded by others, your perspective is limited to what everyone around you can see. The conversations are about the immediate, the obvious, the shared experience of being in the crowd. But climb higher, and you start to see patterns they can't see yet. You notice how the river flows through the valley. You observe how the clouds move across the sky in ways you never noticed before. You understand, suddenly, how all these separate things are actually connected. The mountain, the valley, the river, the trees, the people below. And when you speak from that height, your voice carries differently. It's not that you're better than anyone else. It's that you can see more clearly because you've gone to the trouble of climbing high enough to gain perspective. But here's the challenging part. When you try to share what you've seen, many won't understand. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're not fun anymore. They'll say you think you're better than them now. They'll feel the distance between your experience and theirs. And instead of being curious about what you've discovered, they'll feel criticized by your growth. This is the hardest part of the climb. Not the physical challenge of putting one foot in front of the other, not the thinning air or the steepening path, but the realization that the people you love might not follow you, that some relationships were only built to exist at base camp, and they can't survive the altitude change. The monk knows this. He's lived it. He spends most of his time alone, not as punishment, but as practice. When he wakes, there's no one to perform for. When he trains, there's no one to impress. When he sits in meditation, there's no one to validate whether he's doing it right. Just him and the practice. Just him and his breath. Just him and the slowly growing awareness of what's actually happening inside his own mind and body. This is how insight develops. Not through reading about other people's experiences, though that can point the way. Not through collecting techniques and teachings, though those can be useful tools, but through the direct, intimate, unavoidable encounter with yourself that only happens in solitude. When you're alone, really alone, you can't hide from yourself anymore. All the habits you use to avoid discomfort, scrolling, talking, planning, worrying, reminiscing, they don't work as well when there's no one around to distract you. The restlessness you usually outrun by keeping busy suddenly has nowhere to go. The questions you've been avoiding suddenly become impossible to ignore. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I actually want underneath all the expectations I've absorbed? What am I afraid of? What am I running from? These questions don't have easy answers. They can't be solved by Googling or asking for advice. They require something else entirely: the willingness to sit with not knowing, to stay present with discomfort, to let the truth reveal itself slowly, over time. This is the work of the mountain path, and it's why the climb gets lonelier the higher you go. Not because connection stops mattering, but because the kind of connection you need changes. At the base, you needed people to tell you, it's okay to climb. Halfway up, you needed people to encourage you to keep going. But near the summit, you need something different entirely. You need the strength to trust your own experience. You need the courage to value your own direct knowing over other people's second-hand opinions. You need the groundedness to stand alone without feeling lonely. This doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. If anything, the opposite happens. The more at peace you are with aloneness, the more capacity you have for genuine warmth toward others. The less you need their approval, the more freely you can offer them compassion. The less you're performing for an audience, the more authentic your presence becomes. You become like that elephant, powerful, grounded, moving through the world with natural grace, not needing to prove anything, not afraid of your own company, not diminished by solitude, but strengthened by it. And here's what's remarkable. Once you learn to walk comfortably alone, you discover you were never actually separate at all. The same breath moving through you is moving through every living being. The same awareness lighting up your experience is the same awareness everywhere. The same struggles you face in your practice are the same struggles every human has faced since the beginning. You're alone, yes, but you're alone together with everyone who has ever walked this path. The Buddha walked it. Every meditation master who came after walked it. Every person who's ever chosen depth over distraction, truth over comfort, presence over performance, they've all walked this same lonely, beautiful, necessary path. You're in excellent company, even when no one else is in the room. So the question isn't really whether to walk alone. If you're serious about understanding yourself, about developing genuine wisdom, about moving beyond surface-level living, you will walk alone. That's not optional. It's the nature of the path. The question is whether you'll resist that aloneness or learn to make peace with it. Whether you'll spend your energy wishing for more company, or whether you'll use your solitude for what it's actually offering, a chance to know yourself completely. And this is why your morning matters more than you think. The moment you open your eyes, a choice is already being made. You might not realize it's a choice. It feels automatic, habitual, just what you do. But in that first moment of waking consciousness, you're setting the direction for everything that follows. This is why morning matters. Not because there's something magical about dawn, though there's beauty in it. Not because you need to become a morning person if you're not one naturally, but because how you transition from sleep to waking, from unconsciousness to awareness, shapes the quality of your entire day. The Buddha understood this deeply. In the Anguttara Nikaya, he teaches, "Ardently do today what must be done. Who knows, tomorrow death comes." Not to frighten us, but to wake us up to the preciousness of this day, this moment, this breath. So let's talk about something practical, something you can actually do tomorrow morning, and the morning after that, and the one after that. Something simple but profound enough to shift your experience from the inside out. In Buddhist understanding, we have three primary sources of energy that sustain our practice and our life: breath, lifestyle, and nourishment. Think of these as three rivers feeding into the same lake. If one river runs dry, the lake can survive for a while on the other two. But if all three rivers are flowing clear and strong, the lake stays full, vibrant, alive. Let's start with breath, because it's the most immediate, the most accessible, and the one you can work with right now without changing anything external in your life. Here's what happens in most mornings. You wake up, and within seconds, sometimes before your feet touch the floor, you're already somewhere else, mentally. Thinking about what needs to be done today, replaying yesterday's conversations, checking the time and calculating how much sleep you got, reaching for your phone. Your body is here, waking up in this bed, but your attention has already scattered into 1,000 fragments. This is the pattern most people live their entire lives inside of. Physically present, mentally absent. Now imagine something different. You wake up, before checking the time, before making any plans, before doing anything at all, you notice your breathing. That's it. That's the entire practice. You notice air is entering your body without you having to think about it, without you having to earn it, without you having to be worthy of it. Breath is happening. You're alive. Stay with that for just 3 breaths. Breathing in, you know you're breathing in. Breathing out, you know you're breathing out. This is anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, the foundational practice the Buddha taught, the one he returned to again and again, the one that can carry you all the way to the deepest insights if you stay with it. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Just noticing breath, just being present with the most basic fact of being alive. How could something so ordinary be the foundation of genuine transformation? Because it brings you back from the future you're anxious about, back from the past you're ruminating on, back from the story about who you should be and what you should be doing, back to the one thing that's actually real. This moment, this breath, this body breathing. Try this tomorrow morning, and you'll understand immediately what makes it powerful. When you first wake up, before your mind has fully engaged with its usual patterns, there's a kind of openness, a softness, a brief window when you're not yet fully defended against experience. If you can meet yourself in that window with awareness instead of distraction, something shifts. So here's the practice, step by step. You wake up. Maybe there's an alarm. Maybe you wake naturally. Doesn't matter. Your eyes open. Before anything else, notice breathing is already happening. Place your hand on your belly if that helps. Feel it rise with the in-breath, fall with the out-breath. Count if your mind needs something to hold on to. Breathing in, 1. Breathing out, 1. Breathing in, 2. Breathing out, 2. Up to 10, then start over. Or simply stay with the sensation, the coolness of air entering your nostrils, the warmth of air leaving, the gentle expansion and contraction of your chest and belly. Just this, for 3 minutes. 3 minutes before you check your phone. 3 minutes before you start planning your day. 3 minutes of being present with the simple fact of being alive. This isn't luxury. This isn't self-indulgence. This is training your mind to stay where you actually are, instead of constantly leaking energy into where you're not. Now, if you can, and this makes a profound difference, get up and step outside. Not to exercise, not to check the weather, not to do anything productive, just to breathe fresh air. You've been breathing recycled air all night in a closed room. Your body needs something new, something vital, something that reminds you there's a whole world beyond your thoughts. Stand outside for just a few minutes. Feel the temperature on your skin. Maybe it's cold. Maybe it's warm. Maybe somewhere in between. Notice the quality of light. Dawn has a different feeling than full morning. Listen to what sounds are present. Birds, wind, distant traffic, silence. And breathe deliberately. 9 deep breaths is a good practice. Slow inhale, filling your lungs completely. Slow exhale, releasing everything. 9 times. Or try alternate nostril breathing. Close your right nostril with your thumb. Breathe in through the left. Close your left nostril with your ring finger. Breathe out through the right. Breathe in through the right, out through the left. Continue for a few minutes. This isn't mystical. It's physiological. You're waking up your respiratory system, increasing oxygen to your brain, activating your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of you that knows how to be calm and alert at the same time. But here's where most people get derailed, and we need to talk about it honestly. The phone. You know this moment. You've lived it 1,000 times. You wake up with some intention, maybe to meditate, maybe to have a peaceful morning, maybe just to ease into the day slowly. But within minutes, sometimes within seconds, your hand reaches for your phone. Just checking the time, just seeing if anything important came through, just a quick look. And then you're gone. 30 minutes disappear into scrolling through other people's lives, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies that have nothing to do with you. Your attention, that precious, limited resource you'll spend your whole day trying to manage, gets completely fragmented before you've even left your bed. This isn't a moral judgment. It's an observation about cause and effect. When you begin your day by immediately giving your attention to external input, news, messages, social media, email, you're training your mind that being present with itself isn't valuable. You're reinforcing the pattern of looking outside yourself for meaning, for validation, for a sense of what matters. The Buddha called this sense desire not just physical craving, but the mind's habitual reaching towards stimulation, towards something other than what's present right now. And here's what's insidious about it. It feels productive. It feels like you're getting informed, staying connected, being responsible. But notice what it actually does to your energy. After 15 minutes of scrolling, how do you feel? More grounded or more scattered? More peaceful or more agitated? more connected to yourself, or more distant from your own center? You already know the answer. So, here's the practice. Create a boundary. The phone stays off, or at least out of reach, for the first 30 minutes of your day. No checking, no looking, no quick glances. Those 30 minutes belong to you establishing your ground, finding your center, remembering who you are before the world starts making demands. Instead of scrolling, you breathe. Instead of consuming information, you sit with yourself. Instead of fragmenting your attention across 100 different concerns, you practice being whole. This is lifestyle as practice. It's not about becoming rigid or creating more rules to stress about. It's about recognizing that every choice you make either supports your deeper intention or undermines it. Every action either strengthens your capacity to be present or trains you in distraction. And morning is where you set that pattern for the entire day. Now, nourishment, the third source of energy. What you put into your body first thing in the morning matters. Not because there's one right diet that everyone should follow, but because your body needs fuel, and the quality of that fuel affects the quality of your energy throughout the day. In Buddhist monasteries, the morning meal is eaten in silence, slowly, with full attention, not as a rule to follow, but as a practice of presence. Each bite is tasted, each swallow is noticed. There's gratitude for the food, for the hands that prepared it, for the earth that grew it, for the conditions that made this moment of nourishment possible. You don't have to eat in silence if that's not realistic for your life. But you can bring that quality of attention to your breakfast. Sit down to eat instead of eating while doing 3 other things. Notice the colors, the textures, the flavors. Chew slowly enough to actually taste what you're eating. Feel the nourishment entering your body. This isn't about perfect food choices. It's about being present with the reality that you're a living being who needs nourishment, and receiving that nourishment with awareness instead of just shoveling fuel into your body while your mind is already racing ahead to the next thing. So we have breath, lifestyle, nourishment, 3 rivers feeding the lake of your daily energy. Work with one, and you'll notice a difference. Work with all 3, and you're establishing a foundation that can support genuine transformation over time. But here's what's crucial to understand. This isn't about adding more tasks to your morning routine. It's not about waking up earlier to squeeze in meditation and breathing exercises and mindful eating while feeling stressed about getting everything done. It's about quality, not quantity. Even 3 conscious breaths are more valuable than 30 minutes of distracted meditation. Even 5 minutes of true presence with your breakfast are more nourishing than 20 minutes of eating while scrolling. The practice is presence itself. Being here, with this breath, in this body, in this moment, That's the whole practice. Everything else is just different doors into that same essential coming home. Tomorrow morning, try it. Wake up and notice. Breath is happening. 3 conscious breaths before anything else. Step outside if you can. Breathe fresh air. Feel yourself in a body that's part of a larger world. Leave your phone untouched for 30 minutes. Eat your breakfast like it matters. That's it. That's the practice. Not complicated, but also not easy, because simple things become difficult when you're fighting against years of habitual distraction. But if you stay with it, something remarkable begins to happen. The quality of your mornings changes. The quality of your days changes. And slowly, over time, the quality of your entire life begins to shift, not because you've added something new, but because you've started showing up for what's already here. This is how the path begins. One breath, one morning, one conscious choice at a time. But morning is just the beginning of understanding your inner world. You've established the morning practice, breath, presence, nourishment. Now let's talk about what you actually do with that awareness throughout your day. Because here's what most people discover. Knowing you should be mindful and actually being mindful are 2 completely different things. You can read 100 books about meditation. You can understand the theory perfectly. You can agree that presence matters, that awareness is valuable, that living consciously is better than living on autopilot. But then you try to actually pay attention to your experience, and within 30 seconds, your mind has wandered off into planning dinner, or replaying a conversation from 3 days ago, or wondering what that noise was, or thinking about being present. This is completely normal. This is what minds do. This is why we practice. The Buddha offered a framework for working with awareness that's beautifully practical and surprisingly comprehensive. It's called the 4 foundations of mindfulness, and it gives us 4 different doorways into presence, 4 places we can anchor our attention when it starts to drift. Let's explore them one at a time, not as theory, but as living practice you can work with right now. The first foundation is awareness of the body. Right now, as you're listening to this, you have a body. That sounds obvious, but notice, how much of the time are you actually aware of having a body? Most of the day, we live almost entirely in our heads. We're thinking, planning, remembering, imagining, treating the body like it's just a vehicle carrying our head around, only noticing it when it hurts or needs something. Body awareness means coming back to the direct physical experience of being alive right now. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the weight of your body, wherever you're sitting or standing. Sense the temperature of the air on your skin. Be aware of your hands. Are they tense or relaxed, warm or cool? still, or moving. This isn't about judging what you find or trying to change anything. It's simply about noticing, this is what's actually happening in my body right now. When you're walking, know that you're walking. Feel each step, the heel touching down, the weight rolling forward, the toes pushing off. When you're sitting, know that you're sitting. When you're lying down, know that you're lying down. This sounds simple, and it is simple, but it's also profound. Because the moment you bring awareness to your body, you're no longer lost in the story your mind is telling. You're here, in direct contact with present moment reality. The second foundation is awareness of feelings, and this needs some clarification because it's often misunderstood. In Buddhism, when we talk about feelings in this context, we're not talking about emotions like anger or joy or sadness. We're talking about something more basic, the feeling tone of every experience. Every single moment of experience has a feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. You take a sip of water, there's a feeling tone to that. Maybe pleasant if you're thirsty, maybe neutral if you're not particularly focused on it, maybe unpleasant if the water tastes off. You hear a sound, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. You think a thought, same thing. This might seem trivial, but watch what happens. Your whole life is shaped by your reaction to these feeling tones. When something feels pleasant, you want more of it. You grasp, you chase, you try to hold on to it or repeat it. When something feels unpleasant, you want it to go away. You resist, you push against it, you try to avoid or escape it. When something feels neutral, you usually just zone out and miss it entirely. And this is where suffering comes from, not from the feeling tones themselves, but from our unconscious reactions to them. Awareness of feeling tones means noticing pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and then not automatically reacting. You feel an unpleasant sensation in your knee during meditation. Instead of immediately shifting position, you notice unpleasant. You stay present with it for a moment. You observe your mind's urge to move away from discomfort. And in that observation, you create a tiny space of freedom. You're no longer being unconsciously driven by attraction and aversion. You're aware of them, and awareness changes everything. The third foundation is awareness of mind states. What's the quality of your mind right now? Is it calm or agitated? Focused or scattered? Expansive or contracted? Clear or clouded? Most people go through their entire day never asking this question. The mind is anxious, and they think it's just who they are. The mind is scattered, and they think that's just how Mondays feel. The mind is caught in desire or aversion or doubt, and they don't recognize these as passing states. They think these states are reality itself. But when you develop awareness of mind states, something powerful happens. You start to see that your mind is like weather. Sometimes it's stormy, sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes clear. But you, the awareness that's noticing all of this, you're not the weather. You're the sky that holds all weather patterns without being changed by any of them. Right now, notice, what's the weather in your mind? Not to change it, not to judge it, just to know it. Anxiety is present right now. Restlessness is here. Calm is arising. Doubt is visiting. The moment you can name the mind state, you've created space around it. You're no longer completely identified with it. It's a state passing through awareness, not the totality of who you are. The fourth foundation is awareness of mental objects, the patterns, habits, and tendencies that shape how we see the world. This is the deepest level of practice, and it includes things like noticing when the 5 hindrances are active: sense desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, doubt. You're working on something, and suddenly you have an intense urge to check your phone. That's sense desire arising. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and anger flares. That's ill will. You sit down to meditate and can barely keep your eyes open. That's sloth and torpor. Your mind won't stop spinning through your to-do list. That's restlessness. You wonder if any of this practice actually matters. That's doubt. When you can recognize these patterns as they're happening, you stop being controlled by them. You see, this is just doubt doing its thing. This is just restlessness. This is just the mind's habitual reaching toward distraction. And in seeing it, you have a choice. Not a choice to make it go away. You can't just will away doubt or restlessness, but a choice to not feed it, to not believe the story it's telling, to not let it completely hijack your attention. These 4 foundations, body, feeling tone, mind states, mental objects, they give you 4 different places to anchor your awareness throughout the day. When your mind wanders during meditation, you come back to the body, the breath, the sensations. When you're caught in craving or aversion, you notice the feeling tone underneath. When you're lost in anxiety, you step back and recognize anxious mind is present right now. When you're stuck in a habitual pattern, you see the pattern itself instead of just being swept along by it. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha teaches, wisdom springs from meditation. Without meditation, wisdom wanes. Having known these 2 paths of progress and decline, let one so conduct oneself that wisdom may increase. This is why we practice awareness. Not to become perfect, not to transcend being human, but to increase wisdom, the capacity to see clearly what's actually happening and respond skillfully instead of reactively. Now, here's what's important to understand about developing this awareness. It happens in stages. At first, you're learning what to do. You're following instructions, trying to remember the steps, checking to see if you're doing it right. Maybe you're learning to meditate, and you're constantly thinking, am I sitting correctly? Should my eyes be open or closed? What am I supposed to be paying attention to? Is this what mindfulness feels like? This is the first stage, learning the form. Your awareness is mostly on the external instruction, what the teacher said, what the book described, what you think it's supposed to be like. You're trying to copy something you've seen or heard, and that takes mental effort. This is normal and necessary. Everyone starts here, but it's exhausting and it doesn't feel natural yet.